So hi everyone, and thank you for joining us for One Art's July reading, July 2025. Just for clarity, why not? We have with us today a great honor. We have Karen Paul Holmes, Laura Grace Weldon, and Alison Luterman. And in fact, that will be the reading order. I will start with an introduction to Karen, and then after, I should say, please hang around and hopefully we can have about half an hour of community time. And if you'd like, we can do some question and answers with our featured readers. So think about if you have questions, or we can just talk about where everybody's from and how it's different and core American values. That can totally be a discussion too. Okay, so first up, our first featured poet is Karen Paul Holmes, who just informed you moments ago, is originally from Michigan, but now lives in Atlanta. Karen won the 2023 Lascaux Poetry Prize, which is very cool. And they have a really good journal that you should check out if you haven't seen it, and received a special mention in the Pushcart Prize Anthology. Her two books include No Such Thing as Distance and Untying the Knot. She's also been published in the Writer's Almanac, the Slowdown, First Daily, Diode, and Plume, all wonderful. Karen, please take it away.
Thank you. And I've also been published in One Art, and very appreciative of that. So thanks, Mark. And I guess Louisa isn't on, but thank you to Louisa too, for the support of poets all over. You've done such a great job with One Art, and you sponsored me when I did a workshop, and now you're sponsoring this. So I really appreciate it. And thanks to everyone who's here. So I have 6 poems to read. 4 of them are from a new manuscript that I'm shopping about. So they are published, but I probably haven't read them in public yet. So the first one actually is about the solar eclipse in 2017 that I was, there's a term called the path of totality. And if you're on the zero line, you basically see the full eclipse. And I was very near the zero line. So there are some other terms like that in the poem. I think they're self-explanatory. Umbra, diamond ring, they call the glint around the eclipse, the corona, the nimbus. So you'll see those terms in the poem. This was published in Braided Way magazine, which is a really cool magazine focused on spiritual practice. Why I can't write poems anymore. I witnessed from a boat floating on the umbra's narrow path of totality, a total solar eclipse, not seen in our country for nearly 40 years. The diamond ring glint, the corona's white wisps, the moment of alignment, cricket and bird chirps clicking off. How quiet is when all sound ceases. Like when a circuit trips and the house quits its whir and hum, or when keys unlock the front door to nothing, your hello not answered from another room. You can explain total silence only by what you can't hear. I give up trying to describe the 360-degree sunset, lassoing a Blue Ridge Lake, the mountain's red nimbus. How long 2 dark minutes seem, the air quickly cold. Then oddly stark shadows and the day's second sunrise, 3:07 p.m. Moon moving into its own space, waking up nature again. And you know how it must have felt to be part of a pagan circle, wildly praying or dancing to praise a god or goddess for the giving light's return. Thank you. My second one is one that was published in One Art, and I thought I'd especially read this poem because it was the one that I think I got the most comments on. And you know how you never know which of your poems people are going to relate the most to? Well, a lot of people related to this poem, especially women who are mothers. Adult daughters. 1. A friend tells me about her flight last week. She watched a grown daughter fall asleep, head on mother's shoulder, mother's cheek on her head, like puzzle pieces. As if grabbing my lapel, my friend implores, how does this closeness happen? My daughter and I have PhDs, but we don't have this, nor did my mother and I. I want to mark a route and hand her the map, but it's a map, instinct I can't explain. Mothers pass on to daughters, blue lines, sinew, heart. I begin to write stories I can't share with my friend. 2. My 75-year-old mother and I carry armloads into Macy's dressing room. She wears new black pants, lint covered hem to knee. Eyeing the mirror, says, gee, I thought I bought pants, not a vacuum cleaner. We laugh and can't stop, tears dripping. We retell the story among sisters and daughters. 3. Singapore. My daughter and I lie on her bed. I arrived last night, a 33-hour flight. Eyes barely open, we enjoy the mynah bird's many songs before city noise thrums. Something reminds us of the vacuum cleaner pants, and we laugh. She rolls over, hugs me. I'm glad you're here, Mama. Let's have tea. I bought you gluten-free muffins and a mango that just now gives to the touch. And this next poem, Mark mentioned when he introduced me that I've been in Plume, which is a journal that I really love and admire. And I've been in there 3 times now. I'm like, thank you, editor. I found an editor like Mark who supports my work. And it's so precious when that happens. So this is one of the 3 poems that he has published. This is a poem I wrote a long time ago, and at Sarah Lawrence Summer Poetry Workshop, Joseph Millar and Dorianne Locks, I was in their workshop, and Joseph and I had a one-on-one on this poem, and he loved it, and that was like in 2011 or something, and it finally just got published. So keep sending those poems out. Unrest, or What the French Horn Can Teach You. To master the French horn, you need lips of steel, though lips were made for softer things than brass. You will call them chops, and wear a permanent dent dead center on the uppermost. Learn to turn the horn over and over to dump the water, your spit, on the floor. You'll sit under a conductor's baton, waiting, waiting, waiting for your cue, then have to hit the right note, a slippery proposition, given the tiny mouthpiece, 3 valves, and 12 feet of cold, coiled tubing. Don't attend National Music Camp with braces on your teeth. Gain 10 pounds that summer gorging at the Melody Freeze, nor date the cocky principal horn. Instead, choose maybe the cute tuba or kind trombone who'll end up in the Chicago Symphony. And remember, brass players make the best kissers based on informal conservatory studies. Most importantly, have the guts to admit it was you, 16 and too excited, who honked on the quarter rest in the final notes of Beethoven's Fifth. Otherwise, at 70, you'll still feel bad for whipping your head to look at the player on your right, implying she was the hack and not you. I noticed somebody said they were from Traverse City, so they're very familiar with Interlaken, where the part of that poem took place. Okay, let's see. This is another one that was in Plume. This is another sort of funny one. And my husband is on the call. He has my picture and my name, but that's actually my husband. So I think he still does, unless he was able to change that. This is Apology to My Husband's Snore. You goose honk, one-note oboe or contrabassoon, freight train roar of a tornado cannonballing down my childhood street like the nightmares I used to have. I try to hear you as sound machine, soothing, rain on roof, ocean waves, white noise. But you're often erratic, a metronome gone rogue, or a sudden snarl startling me awake. Some sleep through their lover's symphony, find peace in the rhythm, the vibration, or they use earplugs, which do squat for me. Once I hear your first note, I can't unhear it. You raspy kazoo or bagpipe drone, lowing loon. My whisper, honey, you're snoring, might work, or a touch on his arm. In desperation, a shove. Momentary silence. The mouse squeaks begin, soon to crescendo into the dry-mouthed roar of a hibernation-deprived bear. Once, when especially growly, I recorded you so he would know my misery, my imprisonment. But let's face it, Snore, really, it's not your fault. My mother ears, even at this late age, too alert. And when you stop, my fear, irrational, sets in. Does he have sleep apnea? Was that his last breath? Also, it's my dang insomnia. Brain seesawing, client calls, to-do list, show tunes, last night Bernstein, I like to be in America. That's when I'm jealous he sleeps like a child. So near my ear, a piano's low A, staccato or legato. Foghorn on cotton stuffed nights, saving ships from rocks, a howler monkey's 140 decibels protecting its territory. Oh, how I love the nose, but not the noise. Can I learn to accept you as part of him, like a mother does her son in prison for assault? I'm failing. My love, like the zero in tennis, you a racket, pinging balls smacking a wall over and over and over and over. Please don't say move into the guest room. The cacophony of his absence would only keep me awake. Sheets colder than Mongolian winter, the air around me empty as an echo. That poem never seems so long until I read it out loud, and then I'm like, this is a long poem. Thanks for bearing with me. The next one is from my second book, No Such Thing as Distance. It's Terrapin Books from 2018. And so that previous poem was about my current wonderful husband. And this poem hints at my previous marriage. And Alison, you mentioned before we started that about the beautiful wisteria, and I'm sorry because this kind of is kind of bad about Miss Wisteria. The true nature of things. Until I moved south, I never saw wisteria wild. It only grew in our living room in Michigan, cascading like a waterfall above the sofa, hand painted on a silk mural, pale violet trickling down the wall. Blooms like grape clusters or tassels of tiny moth wings. Green vines with slim feather leaves. Wisteria, a mystery to me, in a garden where I'd find women in kimonos hiding smiles behind paper fans. The room reserved for piano practice or ladies playing canasta, while the men had their highballs and poker in the den. Remained pristine, if a little faded, until the house sold. Now my daughter has grown, a friend I loved has my husband, and mother's two white lamps bring light to my sofa. When I first saw wisteria in Georgia, early spring along highways, trees and signs and wires draped in purple, I recognized it from mother's wall, thought how lucky Southerners were. But then I learned it curls and twines, invades like kudzu. Tendrils slither underground, stab up anywhere, devil wrap all in their path. Without your vigilance, wisteria's wrist-thick fingers will strangle even a stalwart tree, will squeeze the breath from your home. Okay, and the last poem that I'm going to read actually was in my first book, and this book was from 2014, Kelsey Books under her Aldrich Press imprint. And this book, I never read from it anymore. It seems so old. Poetry is never supposed to get old. But this poem was originally published in Poetry East in 2012. It was one of my first really good publications when I really first started sending my work out. And I just got notice it's going to be reprinted in their 45-year retrospective. And it was such a surprise, to have an old poem picked out of the blue, seemingly, to put in this. When, Poetry East has published me twice, and then it's been years and years, and they've rejected me since. So having it in this retrospective is really special to me. But it is the last poem in this first book of mine, Prelude to a Poem. In my head, I practice diligently, ideas brewing like a Brahms symphony, but creativity often misses its cue. It breaks out in short Prokofiev notes, now sonorous, now dissonant, then fades like the harmonics of a chord. I sense overtones of something triumphant, the heralding of Mahler's French horns, or the singing ascension of his strings. It's as if I'm waiting in the wings, as if I'm almost ready to burst forth into my own ode to joy. And that's the end. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to the next two readers.
Wow, Karen. Loved that. There's so much actual music aside from the sonics and musicality. Uh, just an amazing reading. I'm also loving the continuity. So clearly you planned that out, really well. And there were some moments of levity that I feel like are much needed in our time. So wonderful. Yeah, just a great reading and a
Thank you.
lot of fun. It's appreciated.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
So next up, we have Laura Grace Weldon. Laura lives in a township too tiny for traffic lights. I'm familiar with that concept, where she works as a book editor, leads writing workshops, serves as a Braided Way editor, and chronically it maxes out her library card. Laura, this is good actually. I just want to take a moment to say that's on my list of sort of atypical acts of resistance is just taking a lot of stuff out of the library is really good right now because it is showing support of the library and need and sort of like a use case. So like definitely do that, like go to libraries and just take out tons of stuff. So way to go, Laura. Laura is author of 4 books with a 5th due out in 2025 from Sheila-Na-Gig, wonderful market. Her background includes teaching nonviolence, writing poetry with nursing home residents, facilitating support groups for abuse survivors, and writing sardonic greeting cards. Good use of sardony. Laura lives on a small Ohio homestead where she and her husband host occasional art parties and house concerts. And I will put a link to Laura's website in the chat. Laura, thank you so much for being here. Laura, you're muted.
Try again.
There we go.
Thank you, Mark. I am incredibly grateful for One Art and for publishing me a number of times, and also for Mark's many newsletters, because he and I both seem to like run our eyeballs over the internet every morning and then have all these great links and music and stuff to share. So that's his method, and that's one of the places I scrape my eyeballs is over his newsletters. I'm also thrilled to be reading here with Karen and Alison, a first time for me for both of them. And I got to publish Karen's the first poem she read as editor of Braided Way. And Alison's work I have taught for years. Her poems work beautifully in nonviolence workshops. So thank you, Alison. Really appreciate that. So my first poem is one in a series of awkward poems, but I think I will just limit it to one being awkward poem. It's called Falling from the Hay Wagon. I stand on square bales piled 10 feet high, pushing them to the edge for others to stack as July sun shoves between barn boards in hot, dust-ridden stripes. All of us weary, chaff stuck to sweat after a long day of haying in heat dry as a cracked creek bed. A Benadryl haze makes my limbs feel like pudding, so wobbly and I'm sillier than usual as I wade to the edge, still chortling as I tip over, fall to the barn's dirt floor, landing hard between wagon and post, jeans somehow intact against a pitchfork's rusty tines. I am jolted into silence until I find I'm fine. Me, the worrier who never sees what's coming. My family leans over me aghast while I lie in the dust, laughing at all the good fortune we have sown. And I believe that was published by One Art. Yes, it was. So thank you, Mark. Just one pandemic poem. I don't know about all the rest of you poets I see here, many familiar faces, but boy, the pandemic certainly resulted in a lot of poems. So if you were listening to music while reading about virus research, as you do, this is what happened to me. It's called Listening to Philip Glass's Changing Opinions. Oh, you should listen to this song. There may be no pinnacle higher than music. Granted, we invent, build, trade, choose what to believe, even sequence the human genome, the latter leading us to discover we likely owe who we are to ancient viruses. Easily half our genetic code arises from bygone viral invaders, some performing tasks critical for higher order thinking. Maybe music is a murmur, a pulse left by RNA eons ago, an imperative prompting us to bang on skins, pluck tightened cords, blow through reeds, create what we call music when all along it infected us, made us hosts of a concert started long ago in early light. Okay, one more science poem. These are all verifiable, these things I'm spewing, these facts here. Other frequencies. Mushrooms converse in electrical signals structurally similar to human speech, with vocabularies of around 50 words. Trees confer through underground fungal networks, connect root systems with relatives, grow in ways to best share sunlight. It's not a huge leap to recognize everything speaks. Your apartment's brick walls murmur memories of riverbed clay, itself made of long ago plants, animals, minerals. Rocks under your feet reminisce about having been mountains. Your chair whispers of its life as an acorn and then a tree. Your window hums about what it was to be quartz, and before that, magma. Sometimes you sense a hush and wish you knew what was being said by voices well beyond your hearing. Nod your head when you do, the way you'd encourage a friend to go on with the story, and then listen. So the older I get, the more I end up writing childhood poems. This one is called I Dream of Hubble's Law. I'm standing in front of my mother, head tugged while she braids my hair as she does every morning. I'm 7 years old. She must be mid-30s. Her lipstick is bright red, her hair nearly black, Taster's Choice freeze-dried coffee in her cup, Cleveland news and weather on the radio. My baby brother bangs his spoon, smile flinching each time it strikes. My sister and father are at the table, all of us unaware we're in my dream world, unaware we are inexorably moving away from each other, the way stars grow more distant. Stand still, she says as she fastens a tiny rubber band at the bottom of each braid, so I don't turn around to hug her as I long to in my dream. I want to hang on for dear life as galaxies move apart ever faster in a universe widening toward absolute zero. The next one, this one nobody wants to publish, so I'm just reading it anyway. Perhaps it's the title, Warmed by Goat Breath. Just before first light, this is a November poem. Just before first light, sky the color of fog, our dogs nose down reading plot lines in the grass, I spy something in the pin oak. It's small and brown with a shiver of white fluff barely visible to one side. A neighbor's cat had summer kittens, 5 exuberantly friendly creatures who pester our porch-dwelling chipmunk and crouch on my son's repair-hungry Ford. I hurry under the tree to call, "Kitty, kitty," afraid a kitten climbs so high it can't get down. Last night's wind swiped most leaves to the ground, and tongues of snow now lick frost-killed flowers. How long has this poor thing clung to a branch? I imagine how cold it must be, how afraid. I hope our ladder reaches that high, but oh, how good it will be to cradle that kitten close, warm it in my jacket, carry it home. Then, thanks to light just now yawning awake, it dawns on me what I'm fussing about is an empty bird's nest with snow stuck in its sticks. There is so much to worry over, so much beyond my help, but not this kitten, safe in a barn, warmed by goat breath, maybe dreaming right now of its courage. Okay, one more animal poem. Make your wishes more specific. I walk into the library, accompanied by the soft clopping of a faithful donkey. If I slow, its hoofbeats slow. If I hustle, it keeps up with me. I have long wished for a donkey of my own. I'd pictured a large-eyed grazing animal with a toothy grin and love of scratches, maybe named Bartholomew or Lysander. Imagined he might wear wildflowers I'd woven into a crown, at least until he chomped them down. This clopping is not that donkey. Instead, the sole of my long-worn shoes has come loose, flapping so wide, each footfall offers a grin as I ride in. This next one is another one that Mark published called Ordinary Substances. Our implausibly tough luck suggests the floor is lava, the apple is poison, the underbed monster is on the loose. It proves time after time, benevolent strangers, enchanted gardens, and magic potions are also real, each entirely made of an ordinary substance, gratitude. Don't imagine some sweet, scented, gauzy thing held together with whispers. Her power grows muscled with use. It can be summoned instantly, even during the most wretched trials, especially then. Gratitude's face may be bittersweet, but her feet are on the ground. Try to knock her down. She will rise for another round. She will rise and rise and rise. You will rise with her. If you have sorted through a parent's home after they've passed on, you have probably had this experience called Box of Old Pictures. Who are these people? Mostly stern, dressed in their best, children frozen at a parent's side. Where was the house there in the back? How long ago did that blurred tree wave in the breeze? I want names and dates written on the back in elaborate cursive. Want to ask each person what they hoped for before their pictures were creased in lines heavy as regret. I look so long into eyes I see them alive again. The dark-haired girl plaits her hair, sings softly at the window behind lace curtains, smooths her dress, doesn't imagine herself old as she'll be in the next picture. White braids wrapped around her head, leaning away from a hand on the back of her chair, there in the yard, curtains caught in motion with the wind of another time. I can almost hear her laugh at what a camera can't capture. How am I doing on time, Mark? I forgot to look when I
Oh,
started.
you're great. Keep going.
A couple more?
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
This is a poem, kind of an old poem to my husband called What It Carries Still. Your father, whose voice scared me, whose head loomed a full 14 inches over mine, bought us our only housewarming gift, a bright blue 6-cubic-foot wheelbarrow. We laughed at its size, laughed as you gave me a bumpy ride over the first lawn we called our own. He seemed to believe our future would be one of Paul Bunyan-sized loads. It was. In it we hauled firewood, dirt, rocks, crinkled leaves topped with squealing toddlers. It held a big block Dodge engine. It toted rolls of fencing, chicken feed, cow manure. It carried trays of tender seedlings out to the garden, waiting to be blessed, each into soft earthen beds. Today you mend the rusted body of our battered blue wheelbarrow. I wish your father lived to see its wooden handles, smooth from use, and what it carries still on that one sure wheel. I read a lot about living in the country, and this next one is one of the downsides of living in the country. It's called Diner Parking Lot, Rural Ohio. At first, I assumed these guys gathered for a bachelor party paintball game until I see their assault rifles are real. Their bumper stickers, incendiary, their desert camo ridiculous in our scarlet and amber autumn. What they believe on a day glorious as divine revelation seems to have nothing to do with teachings of an outcast loving Jesus. Is that my son's old scoutmaster? My neighbor's ex? I want to ask what's going on here in my best church lady voice, but recall our mail carrier's insistence. My garden's crescent moon mosaic, the one I made using my dear dead mother's chipped dishes, outs me as a devil worshiper. Silent, I watch one man bend a knee, thick fingers tying his shoe. Wonder if a body his size, bent in half, feels the heavy pulse blessing his throat. Wonder if he knows his posture mimics braver men kneeling for justice. Parking lot dust gleams in the sun. Maple leaves bright as blood sift over us all. Maybe one or two more poems. I don't know where I am here. Okay, two. Thanks, Mark. Riverbank Ceremony. This is from Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. Ohio has quite a few waterfalls, although you might not imagine that. Step out on mossy water's edge rock. Let the river's rush take you beyond yourself. When you're ready, kneel and select a secret from the heavy chandelier inside your chest. Whisper it to the water. She will carry it in her molecules around the bend, out of sight. Your secret will steam from tea sipped in Vietnam, slide down an antelope's throat and out again in its blood, trickle from a glacier in Greenland, hurl from cumulonimbus clouds onto cobbled streets in Belgium, trill through secret underground paths, rise up a redwood's trunk, turn into a silver helix twisting from your bathroom faucet, translucent, transformed, washing over you. Okay, let's just do one more here. Flowers on the kitchen table. Pale pink peonies burst with blooms, a few petals already fallen, free, curled near. Why are you inside, they ask. Go out. Be everything you see. Just beyond these walls, their sisters are drinking sunshine, kissing ants, flirting with wind. I mean to step outside, smell this freshly unwrapped day, look for toads tiny as a baby's fingernail, watch vultures celebrate the sky. Instead, distractions turn my head. When next I pass by, the peonies say nothing to me at all. Thank you so much. Appreciate you listening.
Thank you, Laura. Wonderful reading. Love just hearing, poems of place and just so many amazing images. Truly extremely powerful. Thank you for that. So our final reader is Alison Luterman. Alison has published 4 previous collections of poetry, most recently In the Time of Great Fires and Desire Zoo. Her poems have appeared in the New York Times, Sunday Magazine, The Sun, Rattle, and elsewhere. She writes and teaches in Oakland, California, and I'll put a link to her website in the chat. Alison, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you to the Karen and Laura. Your readings were so beautiful. I really enjoyed your poems. And Mark, I want to say a special thank you to you because in the poems you'll hear me reading, there are some odes to women singers. I had this beautiful idea back in like 2020 or 2021 that I wanted to do a whole collection of poems celebrating iconic women singers. It was one of those ideas that just wouldn't let me go. And then when I started sending the poems out, I didn't get the enthusiastic response that I was hoping for, except from One Art. And One Art published the very first of those poems. And since, and several others, but you were like the first gatekeeper who said yes to my vision. And I'm really, really grateful for that. And now they'll be published in book form on September 16th from a book called Hard Listening by Wild House Press. So that's coming up, but I don't have a pre-order link for it yet. But Wild House Publishing is going to do my next book, Hard Listening.
We'll be on the lookout.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to just read, this first poem was not published in One Art. It's called A Scrap of Blue. Gray, blustery day by the lake. I'm walking to the bank, hood up, shoulders hunched, when I pass a woman watching the tea-colored water. She's got that look we humans get when we see a baby anything. This time it's a tiny coot, black as wet velvet, just learning to fish, tipping head down into the drink, then popping up again like a cocktail glass ornament. I wouldn't have seen it on my own, striding blindly as I always am, fighting the elements, fighting late-stage capitalism and losing. But I could ride the coattails of her attention for a moment, could notice her noticing, and so slip through a crack between the thousand kinds of oblivion. A scrap of blue when clouds part just enough. In 12-step programs, they say you have to be willing, but if you're not, then perhaps you might be willing to be willing, and so on until finally some kind of light may find even you, however cranky and rain-splattered, however far you think you are from home. Thanks. And so the next poem that I'm sharing here is called At Albany Bulb with Elaine, and Robert Reich published this one in his Substack, which I was grateful for, because I know that we're all kind of under siege with all the stuff that's going on in our country right now. Stuff is a euphemism, so and my friends and I talk about it all the time. So anyway, here's At Albany Bulb with Elaine. And I hope that you can't hear that my neighbor is using their leaf blower, but whatever. Side by side on a log by the bay, sunlight, unleashed dogs prancing through surf, almost exploding out of their skins with happiness. Dogs who don't know about fired park rangers or canceled health research or tariff wars or the suicide hotline for veterans getting defunded, or. We've listed horror upon horror to each other for months now, and it does no good. So instead, I tell her how I held a 2-day-old baby in my arms, inhaling him like a fresh-baked loaf of bread, then watched as a sneeze erupted through his body like a tiny volcano. It was the look of pure astonishment on his face, as if he were Adam in the Garden of Eden making his debut achoo, as if it were the first sneeze that ever blew that got me. She tells me how her dog once farted so loudly he startled himself and fell off the bed where he'd been lolling, and then the two of us start to laugh so hard we almost fall off our own log. And this is our resistance for today, remembering original innocence. And they can't take it away from us. Though they ban our very existence, though they slash our rights to ribbons, we will have our mirth and our birthright gladness. Long after every unsold Tesla has vaporized and Earth has closed over even the names of these temporary tyrants, somewhere, some women like us will be sitting side by side, facing the water, telling human stories and laughing still. Thanks. Yeah. So a lot of my poems lately have been of a political nature for reasons you can easily understand, I'm sure. But this one is my neighborhood. But right before everybody got on the call, we were talking about where we're zooming in from, and I'm in Oakland, kind of an inner city neighborhood. I'm glad there's no fireworks right at this moment because it's 11 o'clock in the morning, but there have been fireworks continuously on, for weeks now. But there's also flowers, and I'm so grateful to my neighbors who cultivate flowers in their yard because I walk my neighborhood almost every day and smell things. That's what I do. So this is called the fragrance thief. Come April, I'm a dog, bounding around the neighborhood, lapping up scent, every hair on my body an exclamation point. New yellow roses have a bouquet of tea and apricots. But what's this purple-flowered bush growing so lavishly in a neighbor's yard it has almost swallowed their small house? Some kind of lavender, is it? Or sage? Its aura is luscious, succulent. It smells like love with a capital L. Though being a dog, I can't spell. I just know that whoever lives here and has allowed their small yard to be overrun with unpruned abundance must be a god of olfactory bliss. And I am sorely tempted to become human again, so I can break off handfuls to stuff into my thievish pockets and saunter off, haloed in unearned ambrosia. I think it's an important, almost political act in these troubled times to be aware of joy and beauty wherever we can find it or make it. And, it is an act of resistance. So for me, it's dogs, obviously, dogs, flowers, people, and of the people. And, Oakland does get a bad rap. It does. And I feel a little defensive about Oakland because I love it. But I live in a neighborhood that's largely immigrant. It's, a lot of Latinx people, a lot of Asian people from all over Vietnam and Cambodia and Laos and, the Chinese people. There's just a whole lot of everybody here. I don't know where everybody's from, but it's a lot of people from other countries. So our neighbors to the right and the left of us are Mexican. And I wrote a poem called Los Vecinos, which was just published in Reich's Substack. But unfortunately, I misspelled vecinos because my spelling is bad in English and terrible in Spanish. So it's Vecinos. So I want to celebrate the richness that it is to live in an immigrant neighborhood. It's very rich. It's wonderful. I mean, there are people cooking food that I don't know, and there's people foraging for herbs in the little creek by the park that they know things about the plant life around here that I wish I knew. There's a lot of wisdom and knowledge and language and food and culture in my neighborhood. And I only know a tiny tip of the iceberg of it, but I'm very eager to learn more. So this is called Los Vecinos. Teresa, our Mexican neighbor, climbs our porch steps on arthritic legs, carrying a plate of fresh tamales, still warm, wrapped in cloth, because they're having a cookout in their yard with all the tias and grandbabies, and we're included in the golden circle of familia through no virtue of our own. Yet here she is again at our door with a plate of something delicious, or a big plastic bag filled with nopales from the edible pods of the giant cactus in their yard, which she has skinned and cubed and boiled in salted water. They're slippery as okra, tart as lemons, and she swears they will cure a long list of ailments, including, but not limited to, cancer, high blood pressure, diabetes. Standing on our porch, leaning against the railing, she enumerates the benefits, while I smile and nod. Sí, sí, gracias. My friend, who lives in a rich neighborhood, says she's seen ICE patrolling, looking for gardeners and maids escaping over the back fences of Marin. They're tearing apart families like clumps of seedlings, uprooting whole delicate ecosystems. But what they don't understand is the mycelial nature of kinship, how love is a weed that travels across borders in a bird's belly and pops up waving its arms no matter the law. Our block resounds with spangled mariachi tunes all summer long. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't jealous some evenings, lying awake while parties go on around us, because this land is their land, and this devotion is tough and wild and joyous. And Teresa can't read the red card that says know your rights in English and Spanish, nor understand how I make a living, but she knows what to do with the leaves of the guava tree growing along our driveway, whose leaves are medicinal in dozens of ways, whose leaves, as the Bible says, are given for the healing of the nations. Yeah. As I was reading, I'm sure this happened to you too. I was thinking, oh, I got to edit this just a little bit. But anyway, so that's Teresa. It was actually, she has another name, but I was weirdly afraid that ICE would read Reich's blog, so I changed her name just to know that, because those are the times that we're living in, where you got to change names in poems. So yeah. Anyway, and now we get to a few that have published in One Art, and again, I'm so grateful to you, Mark, for curating this space. It's really been a boon for not just for me, for a lot of poets. And your turnaround time is amazing. I don't know how you do it. You must read all night, but your turnaround time is a blessing for, you know, the Sun just is going to publish something of mine next month, literally 4 years after I sent it to them. So like One Art is pretty great. This is called To a Mother I Know. I'm not a mother myself, but I know a lot of mothers, and I think it's the hardest job. I do. So this is called To a Mother I Know. I have seen you lift the whole car of your pain and hold it above your head with trembling arms. Seen you bench press that 2-ton rusted hulk aloft for 18 years so that your daughter could play in the open air, creating whole worlds, innocent of the superhuman effort you were making to keep the weight off her. It happens all the time. Mothers do this. They hoist the unbearable and they bear it. But witnessing you achieve the impossible breaks something in me. Not my heart, but the ice sheath around it. I think of my own mother, of course, and how valiant her effort at keeping me apart from her suffering. Though you can't really keep a daughter apart. We are too much entwined in one long umbilicus, reaching down the generations like tree vines. And this is what's the mater, mother of all truths. The weight of what we try to carry for each other will never be fully known. And that's, yeah, a tribute to my friend, the mother, to all the mothers, to my sister, who's a mother, to my mother, who's been gone for almost 25 years now. And yeah, to all the mothers. And here comes the first, well, it's not the first poem that One Art published, but one of the poems of the, what I call my divas, the odes to these iconic women singers. This is Karen Carpenter. You know, she was a joke for so long, and then a tragedy, but like she was an amazing musician, amazing, incredible drummer. And of course, her vocals are unmatched. Her voice is so smooth, so gorgeous, her phrasing, everything. So this is called Karen Carpenter, On Top of the World. My mother pushed the shopping cart at A&P, buying cream of mushroom soup and canned tuna, while I stood transfixed in the magazine section, reading the latest edition of Tiger Beat. I know I'm dating myself here. The Carpenters were on the loudspeakers. They were everywhere that year, like water, especially Karen Carpenter, whose voice was thrillingly deep and low, like the hush inside a redwood grove, smooth as a swatch of velvet held against your cheek. The tabloids I read featured full-colored spreads of her and her brother in their matching Dutch boy haircuts, mouths open, singing like celestial twins in perfect harmony. I never guessed that she was shy like me, that she would have preferred to hide behind her drum set rather than be displayed like an awkward doll. I didn't know she was criticized for her weight or that she longed for a life off the road. Over the years, I noticed how she became thinner and thinner, collarbones and scapula jutting out. But still, this seemed to be part of the larger joke about them. How corny they were, how wholesome, how good, while the real artists were out getting drunk and trashing hotel rooms. She was truly good, no joke. She was superb. Her voice never cracked or faltered, no matter the strain. She never hit a sour note. She just kept crooning, mainlining comfort into our ears, right to the very moment she up and disappeared. And, you know, I did a whole bunch of research for this project about the women singers, and I went, it changed me from being somebody who was always kind of looking up in admiration and kind of idolizing and putting on a pedestal and othering a little bit these great artists, to really understanding more of how difficult it was for them and having a lot of empathy for the struggle that it took and understanding more of the work and the pain behind the beauty that I was enjoying. So some of the other poems also reflect that. Yeah, and oh gosh, it's pretty late. Mark, how am I doing for time? How many more should I do?
It's really up to you. Whatever feels right. We're good on time.
Really?
Yeah.
Give me a limit, please.
How about 3?
3 more poems. Okay, great. All right, well, then this one is Eva Cassidy at live at Blues Alley, who's another incredible singer. She's not as well known as she should be because she died early, young, of cancer. She was phenomenal. So if you haven't ever listened to Eva Cassidy, you know, Google her and you can find some stuff on YouTube. She's phenomenal. And she had an album called Eva Cassidy Live at Blues Alley, which is also like you can watch the whole, you can watch it on YouTube. And it was this night at a little bar called Blues Alley where she sang her heart out. And this is the night, that night. Eva Cassidy live at Blues Alley. She had a cold and didn't think she sounded good, but it was the only night they were able to record, and she'd scraped together all the money she'd been able to save from her day job in a tree nursery, so they just had to go ahead and use it. And now it's what we have left of her, and it's live, and it's still happening here in my beat-up little Honda decades after her death, where I'm listening to her sing Fields of Gold like she knows that she won't last the year, because the wistful way she's conjuring those fields of barley where she's promising we'll walk someday fools no one. To listen for that blue note under the melody could shatter you, but you have to let it pierce the place in your heart where you've been pretending you'll never die. That's what I hear anyway. Stopped at a red light while some joker who doesn't use his turn signal almost T-bones me. I know when the song's over, she'll leave the stage forever. Still, the clear strains continue, even though those fields will be covered in snow much too soon, because this kind of truth lives on and on. It is made of silver and light and bone. So that's a tribute to Eva Cassidy, whom I admire more than I can say. And then I think this is a funny one. I've been studying singing myself for a couple years now. And as a lady of a certain age, there's a tendency for this vibrato to kind of creep in. Actually, it can happen to anybody at any age, but I don't want to sound like a church lady. No offense to church ladies. And yet when I get to the high notes, it starts to get vibrato-y. So my singing teacher has really been like on my case about that. My vibrato. My singing teacher says uncontrolled vibrato, keyword uncontrolled, is insecurity wearing a frilly blouse, like the upspeak of a nervous student peppering everything she says with kind of, and you know. He says, commit to each note like you mean it. And I agree. I want to make a pure tone without apology or wavering or bleating like a nanny goat. But oh, as I ascend past F and then G into the attic of my upper register, I feel things begin to throb, and not in a good way. Here comes my vibrato, like a teetering pile of red jello, or a drunken ex-girlfriend at the wedding, smeared lipstick and too much perfume. And yes, I'm embarrassed to be wobbling around like a little girl wearing her mother's high heels, but doesn't everything on earth vibrate with a mortal shudder? Candle flickers, moonlight shivers the pond, and even long-dead stars pulsate in their inky firmament. It's only the angels who do not sweat or bleed, whose pudenda are smooth as Barbie dolls, whom you'll find singing hosannas forever, each note steady as a laser beam, never trembling or flinching. And the final poem I'm going to read is Love Warrior, which I think was the very first one of the lady of the diva poems that got published, and it was published in One Art. So Mark, like I said, you were the first one to give my diva project a chance. And Love Warrior is about Patty Cathcart of Tuck and Patty. And again, if you haven't listened to Tuck and Patty, they're amazing. And they have a slew of albums. They're a husband and wife. He plays a monster guitar. She's an incredible vocalist. And they sort of share one musical mind. So it's amazing to watch them or listen to them. This is called Love Warrior, which is the title of one of their albums and a song. In the hard months after I'd split from my first husband, there were times when I could not bear to listen to music at all, and especially not to Tuck and Patty, and my favorite album of theirs, Love Warrior, with its refrain, "We give up on love so easily," because Patty Cathcart's voice always sounded like it had been soaked in the dark rum of requited passion for 1,000 years, whereas I'd been stripped down to the bones of myself, and they were bare, honey. They were dry as unbuttered toast. So whenever I heard that song, I'd find myself in a sodden heap on the floor. But Patty's voice was an infusion, almost unbearable in its potency, a womanly call to rise and face life's entwined and ever-shifting harmonies, syncopation of the sublime against a backbeat of the real, the tune I needed to hear with my whole shattered heart. You can't put that kind of art on a staff with notes and a treble clef. Who knows where it came from? What battlefield she had to stagger through to sing it, clothed in a faith I let enter me through osmosis, praying that someday its sweet echo might find me on my feet again. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alison. Incredible reading. I was just thinking there's been a lot of music references in today's poems. Very cool. And at least 2 goat references. I feel like an interesting aspect is, admittedly, I don't know these artists particularly well, and in some cases at all. But it's the, you know, one of the things, aside from you being a brilliant writer, which is a key component here, is, you know, we try to teach people writing poetry that, and it takes a while to figure out that like the particular makes it universal. And so you can really swap in like your modern day generational knowledge of the artists and musicians that you love and sort of get the same sentiment. So it's like I can really, you know, you can hear what you want to hear through it and imagine trajectory, you know, even if it's not the exact same people.
Mm.
And it has been nice to see. That's a good, it was reminding me too that, you know, it seemed like there was a long period of time where, you know, maybe women were a little left out of contemporary music. There was like a lot of singer-songwriters that were mostly men, or like front-led bands that were primarily men for a long time. And in recent, just the last like 5 years, maybe even, it's just like women singer-songwriters have totally taken over the entire scene. And it's very cool to see, as a slight digression there. So thank you to Karen and Laura and Allison for a wonderful reading. I'm going to stop recording now. If everyone wants, they can unmute and clap. But I'm going to stop recording and we can have a discussion.